I wanted a hot tub, but I wasn't willing to spend thousands of dollars for one. So I decided to build one. It can't be that hard, right? While this heats up, let me show you how I built it for under 500 bucks. I had an idea of what I wanted. I'd seen pictures of them online, using the copper coil with the fire to heat it. They don't even need a pump because the water rises as it heats up, which helps it circulate through the system. Whenever you are designing something, one of the first steps is research. For mine, I choose YouTube. On there, I found someone, the HomeMadeModern. He has a great video showing how he made his, and once I saw it, I knew that's exactly what I wanted. Used a copper coil and a stock tank and some fittings to connect the two. His video is really good, and if you want a more in-depth how-to, I definitely recommend watching his video. His system worked very well. It heated it up from 53 degrees to 100 in 2 hours. This is fast, but I'm a mechanical engineer. I took courses in fluid mechanics and heat transfer, so I could make this faster. I figured the majority of the heat generated is lost to the surroundings and doesn't actually go into the system. To improve this, I'll add a furnace, which will retain the heat and make sure it goes into the copper coil heat exchanger and then into the water. The furnace will also help generate more heat by forcing more oxygen up through the bottom and fueling the coals. My theory, more airflow, hotter burn, sooner I can have hot tub time. To start, I picked a spot near our wood pile. I didn't want to take too many trips to fuel the fire. Plus bonus points for being in the middle of a raspberry patch. I cleared the site with a chainsaw and a rake. Then I built the furnace with 60 bricks that I found on Facebook Marketplace for just 10 bucks. They aren't the special high temperature ones, but in my eyes, this furnace is just a prototype and I don't need it existing forever. I just need it to last long enough. But from my research, it'll take hundreds of cycles of hot and cold to break down the bricks, so I'm not too concerned. I'm skipping over how I made the furnace because I cover it in another video. Originally, I wasn't going to build a deck, but after seeing how sad the furnace and the tub looked on the ground, I realized the heating system wouldn't work without them. If the tub were on the ground, then there would be a high spot in the copper coil in the furnace. And I can't have a high spot because air could get trapped in the tube. You might ask, where will the air come from in a closed system like this? But since I'm heating up the water with fire and can't really control the heat, then I have a good chance of boiling some of the water in it. And if air bubbles form and get trapped in the high spot, then the passive heating system won't work. The water won't circulate. So I threw together a deck with lumber that we had left over from our sawmill shed vid. You can check that out. Usually I like to be a perfectionist and make everything perfectly level, but I was short on time, so I did my best to work quickly. To my surprise, it was spot on. Now, bending the copper pipe was a battle. Everyone online said you can't bend it by hand, it would kink, and they were right. After a lot of careful hand bending, I ended up with a copper coil with some baby kinks. I couldn't bend the coil any tighter. I was shooting for a 6-inch diameter, but I ended up with one around 8 inches, but that was just small enough for me to fit it in the furnace. Let's go! I had to do some extra bending to snake the pipe through. I could have built the furnace around the copper coil, but I wanted the copper coil to be removable because the furnace kind of felt like a prototype. And 20 feet of copper pipe was 70 bucks, and I'd like to be able to use it on other projects in the future. I might make another video on the strategy of bending copper pipe, and I'll also go through the science of heat exchangers because I believe they're one of the most underrated mechanical systems. I didn't know about them till college, and After taking courses and learning about them, I see them around us and we use them every day. The first time I fired up the hot tub, I had a bit of flow, but mostly some suspicious sputtering. The fire's turning the water into steam. After 3 hours of feeling the fire and trying to get the water up to temp, it was still just lukewarm.
Woo! Yeah, copper's hot.
My best guess is there was a high spot in the copper coil, trapping steam bubbles, which was blocking the flow. So the next day, after the coils cooled, I went through and bent each coil to make sure there's no high spots or low spots. Just a consistent coil going up. Then I started up the fire. Once it got hot, I just heard 2 pops. You can see it in the squiggly lines. It worked! After that, I had a feeling it would still be over 2 hours. The size of the furnace was definitely my biggest blunder of the project. I made it way too small. And I didn't want to watch over the furnace, refueling it every 10 to 15 minutes like the first time. Every time I'd throw wood in, I'd turn my back for 10 minutes and the fuel would, and the coals would, and the wood would almost be burned out by then. It's way too small. If I were to do it all over again, I'd make the furnace twice the size. Then I could stuff it with more and larger pieces of wood, so it would burn hotter for longer. I also noticed that the copper coil, since I couldn't get it down to 6 inches, was resting on the sides of the walls of the furnace, and the heat probably wasn't getting around that side of the coil. So if I had a larger furnace, same size coil, the heat should be on all sides of the copper coil. I noticed the top pipe started getting pretty hot and you could definitely burn yourself, but I wasn't too concerned. The water in the pipe should keep the pipe at or below the boiling point of water. The water moves slowly through the system, and since it's moving slowly, it's picking up more and more heat, making it hotter and hotter. So then once it comes out into the hot tub, it's hot. Not ideal. To help move the water through quicker, I ended up getting a pump, but of course the hose kept popping off and I didn't have the right connection to keep it on. So I used duct tape. Underwater. It worked, kinda, but that kept popping off. The duct tape was holding, but it wasn't holding on to the connection. It was holding on to the hose. And so what I ended up doing is I found a spare spanner in our garage and I connected that to the duct tape around the fitting. And with that, it ended up holding, but I need to get a better solution that will hold long term. Eventually I grew tired of chopping wood, so I ended up chucking some charcoal in the furnace, and this worked well. I got steady heat without all the work. Oh yeah. So it's been about 3 hours. The water has heated up from 50 degrees to 100, so it's pretty nice now. Building this, I learned if I want to make this again, I need to make a bigger furnace. This one was way too small. I couldn't put enough wood in to save my life, to keep the fire going. Be careful bending the pipe by hand. I highly recommend getting a pipe bender to do it. And then third, don't make assumptions. They'll humble you. I thought I could just put this together and it'll take like an hour to heat up. But honestly, at the end of the day, I got to enjoy a fire-powered hot tub that I made with my own 2 hands. That beer's never tasted so good. And that's a wrap.